Hi, I'm Mike,
And I'm Jo.
and today's video is going to be slightly different than the usual.
Yes, we're going to talk about cycle touring in Europe. We've just finished cycling almost 3,000 kilometres around Europe, and we're going to share our experiences and hopefully give you some tips to get you started. And also, we've got a whole series of videos if you'd like to watch them. I'll put a link down below.
Reason to cycle tour.
The simplicity of it, there's no deciding what to do for the day. You just have to pack up your tent, hop on your bike, and cycle into a new adventure.
You're getting your exercise as you go about your day.
The slower pace of travel allows you to immerse yourself in the surroundings.
We saw otters munching on weeds in the canal,
A snake blocked our path.
and we surprised a deer.
We probably wouldn't have seen these things if we're travelling by car.
It's an affordable way to travel. There's no fuel costs, just your own energy.
And camping is cheap.
But there is something about, doing it all under your own steam. We've got our house on board, we've got our kitchen, got our bed, not really relying on power, fuel.
Well, you might think, well, I'm not fit enough to cycle ride, but
You don't have to be super fit to do it.
no, we hadn't done much cycling for the last 10 years.
Just watch our films and you'll see how unfit we were.
We started off really slow by doing some days we only did 18 kilometres. You don't even have to do that much.
And don't worry if you can't make it up the hills. There's no law that says that you're not allowed to push your bike up a hill, which we did on several occasions.
And I think it was about 6 days in, I got a bit of an injury in my knee
That's just trying to go too far, too fast, too soon.
and not used to the extra weight on the bike and the hills. So if that happens, just make sure you listen to your body and you rest.
Always try to book in at least one rest day a week.
I ended up having to get a knee brace for it, and I had to wear that for the rest of the trip, but at least it enabled me to finish the trip. And we did make sure we have lots of rest days. We like rest days. It's good if you can coincide with a rainy day as well.
Or if it gets too hot. We had a spell where we got up to the 40s during the day, and we decided we'd hide in a hotel.
You can actually do it on any sort of bike, mountain bike,
Recumbent,
electric bike.
road bike.
I've seen a guy doing it on a unicycle. Okay, not on this trip. That was on a different trip. We have hybrid bikes.
It's a cross between a mountain bike and a road bike. Not got the knobbly tyres of a mountain bike, and they haven't got the smooth tyres of a road bike. It's sort of in between.
The ones we have are 27-inch wheels, so it means you go further for less pedalling. The standard mountain bike is 26-inch.
We are lucky that we've got some in storage in the UK, which we can just pick up when we get there. We don't have to worry about travelling with them on the planes.
We always take the ferry from England, so we don't have to worry about the flights or anything like that, so it's really easy. You can actually do it on any sort of bike. In France, every campground has a ability to charge things, so if you want to do it on an electric bike, absolutely no problem. Not in France anyway. I can't speak for the other countries quite so much.
You could always stop at a cafe and have a coffee and ask if you can charge your battery.
Yeah, or carry a spare battery. How to get started with cycle touring? Well, I guess the first thing to do is look at kind of where you want to go.
If you want to go to Europe, each country has its own road network. And if you want to go across Europe, there's Eurovelo routes. They go from north to south, east to west, all across Europe.
Yeah, so I'll put a link down below, but if you just go and look on that map, you can sort of think, oh, I'd quite like to do that, and you can follow the routes, and it makes it really easy. Like
The routes do cross each other, so you can actually zigzag across Europe using these Eurovelo routes.
some popular routes with beginners,
You've got the Loire Valley, it's nice and flat.
which is what we did, the Eurovelo 6 that follows the Loire Valley. There's actually some organised tours there too. We've met some people doing organised tours, starting from Orléans, going to the Atlantic Ocean.
And it's ideal if you don't want to carry all your gear. They'll carry it for you and they arrange all your accommodation.
Some of those trips they're staying in hotels, they have electric bikes. Nice easy way to get into it if you don't want the thinking about it.
There's the Danube.
So this is a great route. We've done this. It starts at the source of the Danube, which is Donau-Eschingen, and it goes all the way through to Vienna. And the most popular part of that is actually from Passau to Vienna. But we actually did the whole thing, and it's a beautiful ride. That's a nice, easy one to follow. Highly recommended.
Another one that you can start off on the English Channel is the North Sea Cycle Route, going up the continental side.
So that's very easy. If you're based in England, you can just hop on the ferry to Calais, Dunkirk, and just basically follow the coast north. It's a beautiful route. And
Also there's the Eurovelo 15, which goes up the Rhine or down the Rhine, whichever way you go.
yes, it starts from the Hook of Holland and goes all the way through to Switzerland. And that's a very popular one for beginners. A lot of people who haven't cycled tour before start on that one.
And we picked it up just outside of Bâle, and headed down towards the Hook of Holland.
Yeah, so we've done a little bit of that as well. And that's all in our videos, so check them out.
We took a 3-man tent this time, just to give us a little bit more room, and it gave us a shelter for our bags. Previously we had a 2-man tent, and it was just a little bit tight. There are 2 common types of tent. One where you put the inner up first, and the other type is where you put the outer up first. There's advantages and disadvantages to both types. With the inner going up first, you can use that then with just the inner without the fly if it gets too hot, or if it gets wet, you can dry your inner and outer separately. With the tents going up with the outer first, you can put the outer up first, and then the inner attaches on the inside, so you can put it up, the outer up in the rain, and your inner stays dry. Alternatively, you can keep the inner attached to the outer and put them all up in one go. The disadvantage with that though is if it gets wet, you have to dry it before you pack it up.
We also had a Vango tent tarp, which was excellent. It was so good if it's raining or even if it's sunny for sheltering under, and you can set it up whatever configuration you want.
Again, you see that in the films that we use. Not so good in thunderstorms. It does tend to collapse when the wind gets up, as Joe found out. Inside the tent we used thermarest type mats. They're quite thin, and the ones we had were 3/4 length, so they just cover your shoulders and your hips. You don't need to have a full length mat because your feet don't really mind whether they're soft or not. You have sleeping bags.
Yeah, we just had lightweight sleeping bags. I found it a bit cold in the earlier stages, so I ended up just buying a fleece blanket to go on top.
And wearing multiple layers in bed.
All my clothes. I wore all my clothes.
Going on with the gear that we took, the cooker we took was a small gas cooker with a screw in. But be aware that in France, a lot of the gas canisters are bayonet fits, so we found that Decathlon actually sold the ones that we needed. So we always carried a spare.
I took a little picnic blanket, which was really handy. We put it inside the awning.
It stopped us treading all the grass.
And it's great if you just want to lay around on the grass. So a couple of times when I want to have an afternoon nap while we're driving along, or just lay it out on the floor and have a little nap.
Yeah, so when we packed up, we made sure it was handy.
The other thing we took was a couple of chairs, and we cannot recommend these highly enough. Oh, they were so good.
These are little chairs we got. How cool are these? They're tiny and they're really comfortable.
It beats sitting on your panniers.
Other years we just used to sit on our panniers, and that was fine, but we're 10 years older now.
The added weight was actually worth it.
Mike thought I was crazy. I ordered chairs. I didn't tell him. He says, chairs? What do we need chairs for? Who's going to carry all this stuff?
Me.
We got them from Decathlon. They were reasonably priced, £34. We were so happy with them. We just had a basic cooking set, just a couple of pots, two bowls, 2 plates.
A spork. If you don't know what a spork is, it's a spoon, fork and knife all in one.
And we also had a little chopping board.
And
stuff.
sharp knife for chopping.
So the kind of meals we did were really basic. It seemed to be at the end of the day, there was never any shop where we were, so we usually ended up going for emergency supplies, usually a pasta, a sauce, maybe a tin of tuna.
So this is our dinner tonight. We've got no food except for a half-eaten thing of cheese. So we just bought up some pasta and we're just chucking the cheese in, mixing it around till it melts. And basically it's macaroni cheese.
We carried muesli for our breakfast. That's just so easy. We just mix it with a bit of water in the morning. And usually we'd carry maybe some strawberries or something. If it wasn't too hot, they'd keep quite nicely. But strawberries chopped up into our cereal. You don't need milk or anything like that. We found it works. It tastes just as fine with just water added to it.
And again, if you see our videos, you find that we found a city or a town right on lunchtime when everything was closed. So we didn't stock up for the evening meal.
I don't know how we do it, Mike, but we always end up in towns in France at lunchtime when everything's shut.
Oh, there's cakes and we can't get to them.
I wouldn't rely too much on Google Maps.
Sure what Google's doing, but it looks like she sent us to a dead end.
Google Maps is great. Take you down completely inappropriate roads.
But it's good for a supplementary
And
thing.
same with Garmin's. They tend to get the roads wrong as well.
Yep.
Even if you say no dirt roads, they will try and send you across sand dunes.
You know how I said the Garmin and Google are conspiring against us? They're doing it again today. They want to go up here on sand dunes. I would struggle to ride my mountain bike along here, let alone this bike that's all fully loaded.
I find the best thing to do is have a book of the region you're covering. It's really handy to see a physical guide of where you're going. They mark out the camping spots and stuff, and sometimes it's just nice to look at a nice physical guide and say, oh yeah, let's go here today.
I used an app called Komoot, which was quite good, but again, it didn't necessarily follow the EV15 or 6, but it was a very close route.
And another one that's worth looking at is the Cicerone Guide. We bought the Cicerone Guide for the Rhine.
The Eurovelo 15 goes straight along that main road, but we're following the Cicerone Guide. Apparently it's a nicer route along the river. So this is a lot nicer than that horrible main road.
If you get up into the Netherlands and Belgium, they've got a number system where you just pick your route, follow the numbers.
So we're ditching the technology because the Garmin keeps sending us down dirt roads, and there's these boards with all these numbers on. So we're going to try this navigation by numbers things.
As long as no one scratched the signs out on the boards. Once you get your head around that, it's not the road that's got the number, it's the point that you're going to that's got the number.
There is books you can buy, so it possibly might be worth buying a book that shows all the routes. We didn't do any freedom camping. We stayed in camping grounds the whole time, but we chose the cheaper campgrounds, which are in France are called municipal campgrounds. They're like a council-run campground.
And usually they've got toilets, showers, water.
One thing to be aware of, though, when camping in France is quite often the campgrounds don't have toilet paper. Very common.
Remember to take your toilet paper with you.
There's a couple of times we got caught short. We didn't have any toilet paper, and we just went and asked, and they just gave us a roll, which is really nice of them. So, yeah.
If you're worried about cycling in traffic, don't worry. Especially in France, drivers will wait for you.
Our drivers here are so polite. They'll sit behind you until they realise it's safe to pass. And they're so patient. They don't moan, they don't toot, they don't throw things at you.
And in Holland, or the Netherlands, if you find you're cycling in traffic, you must be in the wrong place. There's always a cycle lane.
So what clothing did we take? We kept it quite simple. Got to try and fit all the stuff here into these bags here. 3 cycling shirts, 2 cycling shorts, change of clothes for the evening.
Undies.
Undies, yes, socks. 3 of everything, basically. And
Why do you say 3? 1 you're wearing, 1 either to be washed or just washed, and the 3rd pair drying or dried, ready to be used.
So at the end of the day, we'd wash what we'd worn that day. If it was fine, it would dry easily. And most days it did because we had really good weather.
And if it didn't dry, we hung it on the bikes the next day.
We also had layers, so we had some very cold weather at the start of the trip, so we had a thermal layer and then a normal layer, and then we had fleece, and then we had our
Puffer jackets.
lightweight puffer jackets. A buff, which goes around your neck and it's also good for your head.
Cycle gloves and high-vis vest.
For filming, we had 2 GoPros. One I had on my chest, the other one I had for talking. I also had a little mirrorless camera which had interchangeable lenses, so if I wanted any closer shots. I found I didn't use that much. I tend to use my iPhone for most of the shots just because of convenience, and it's got a very good stabilization in the iPhone. I just end up using that for most of my filming.
I also had a mini drone which we took up and put up at times.
And to charge all these things, we had 2 power banks. Mike had a really big, heavy power bank, and I had a smaller one. I also had these little mini solar panels which just fold up. They actually kept our things topped up quite well. And every night at the camping ground there'd always be usually a charging point, so we'd just make sure everything was charged up.
And remember, if you're going to Europe, you need to take European plug adapters.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing we took was a camping plug.
Just a small extension which actually plugs into a camping point, and it's got the most campgrounds actually had power somewhere, so you just plug them in.
The other thing we found when travelling is to try and speak the language where we're going. We always try and learn at least a few phrases.
Even if it's only saying hello, do you have a campground spare?
Basics, hello, thank you, please, goodbye.
In France, that will go a long way. As soon as people realise that you're not that good with their language, they will switch to English for you.
Expenses while we're travelling. So we mostly stayed in campgrounds, and they average from about 10 to 15 euros a night in the off season. But you'll find as you get into the school holiday period, which is July and August, they get a bit more expensive. They can get up as high as $25 and more.
Sorry, 25 euros. The larger campgrounds, which have got all the facilities, swimming pools, children's play areas, They are expensive and we steer clear of them. Not because of the expense, but because of the children.
Bit of both, really. Not that we don't like children. We try and stay in a hotel probably once a week. Usually we'd try and coincide that with rainy weather.
Or if we didn't go to a hotel, we did go to a campground that had chalets or mobile homes.
I know in France it's very common for the campgrounds to have chalets. They have full cooking facilities, bathroom, toilet, all within the units. And they average about $50. And we found that a good option. It's raining. We headed for air-conditioned hotels when it got above 40 degrees because we didn't want to be cycling in those days. Like we spent 2 days in Tours when it was going to be 40, 41. A decent hotel will average between 80 and 120 euros a night. So our budget for the whole trip worked out to about between 60 and 80 euros a day. Basically our accommodation and meals. So we've done a whole series of videos of our trip. So if you'd like to check that out, I'll put a link down below. So I hope you found these tips useful and it helps you get started on your cycle trip.
Until next time,
Stay safe
be happy.
and have fun.